The housewarming party took a surprising turn when his sister walked in, glanced around and smirked. I should have had a house like this, not some outsider. My husband smiled and said quietly, "She's just jealous." I handed him a folder and gave a knowing look. Well, then she's really going to love what the realtor found. Her face turned pale as he flipped through the documents. Proof that she had been trying to put our house up for sale without our knowledge. I never imagined buying a home would turn into a family controversy. Mark and I had worked toward this for years. Nothing was handed to us. Every extra shift, every skipped vacation, every smart financial choice, it all led to this moment, our dream home. It was a modest 2-story house outside of Seattle. Not extravagant, but it was ours. The kitchen was spacious, the backyard perfect for summer barbecues, and most importantly, it belonged to us. I should have known it wouldn't sit well with his family. Mark's sister, Olivia, always had something to say. If we got a new car, she'd roll her eyes and mumble about some people having all the luck. If I got a promotion, she'd say I was just hired to check a diversity box. She never celebrated anyone's success, only questioned why it wasn't hers. So when she walked into our housewarming party, I felt the tension before she even spoke. She took a long look around, then said with a smirk, "I deserved a house like this. Not some outsider." My hands tensed, but I forced a smile. Mark, always the peacemaker, chuckled under his breath and whispered, "She's just being petty." I kept smiling, but my stomach was tight, because I already knew. I had the evidence in my purse, but I waited. The party was in full swing. People were drinking, laughing, admiring the house. My parents were chatting with Mark's mom. Our realtor, Anna, was by the food table talking with neighbors, and Olivia, she was strutting around like she owned the place. She made a show of touching everything, the cabinets, the marble counters, the fireplace, loudly commenting on the decor, the furniture, the layout. "This is exactly the kind of house I should have had," she muttered dramatically, as if she'd been cheated out of something. I noticed Mark's mom watching her with discomfort, but saying nothing. Mark, as usual, brushed it off. He was used to Olivia's attitude, but this time it felt different. Finally, I pulled the folder from my purse and set it on the counter. "Hey Mark," I said casually, "you might want to see this." He frowned, but took the folder. As he flipped through the pages, his expression changed, brows furrowing, jaw tightening. Then he looked up at me, then back down again, his grip tightening. "What's that?" Olivia asked, still smirking. Mark didn't answer. He flipped faster, then stopped. His face had gone pale. I turned to Olivia. "You should know," I said calmly. "The realtor recognized you." Her smirk vanished. I nodded toward Anna, still standing by the food table. "She called Mark yesterday," I continued. "Told him someone pretending to be the homeowner had tried to list the house, with fake documents, a forged signature." The room went silent. Mark slowly looked up. "You tried to sell our house?" he asked, his voice quiet but sharp. There were audible gasps around us. Someone muttered, "No way." Olivia gave a short, nervous laugh. "That's ridiculous." Mark turned the papers toward her. His hands were shaking. "These emails between you and the agent say otherwise." She didn't move, didn't blink. Then she scoffed. "This is insane. I don't know what you're talking about." Mark's voice turned cold. "You tried to sell our house." The tension was rising. Olivia's boyfriend, James, stepped slightly away from her. Her mother, still seated, covered her mouth in shock. "You're really going to believe this?" Olivia asked, trying to hold her ground. Mark let out a bitter laugh. "There's a paper trail, Olivia." She was cornered, and she knew it. Then something in her snapped. "Because it's not fair," she suddenly shouted. The room went still. "I should have a house like this," she cried. "I've worked just as hard, but you get everything. The good jobs, the perfect relationship, the money." She laughed bitterly. "And me? I have nothing, because life handed you everything I should have had." I stared, stunned. "Olivia," Mark said quietly, "you didn't want this house. You tried to take it." Her breathing was uneven. "It was just an idea," she muttered. "I wasn't actually." "Stop lying," I interrupted. "You literally tried to sell it. You emailed agents. You signed documents." She opened her mouth, closed it, then turned to Mark. "You're my brother. You wouldn't let this ruin us. Right? But the decision was already made. Mark wouldn't just let it go, and she knew it. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for support, but found none. James looked away. Her mother was crying. Even the neighbors, people with no personal connection, were staring at her in disbelief. And Mark was done. Olivia took a shaky step back, then another. She was losing. And for the first time in her life, she couldn't talk her way out. I crossed my arms. I hope you're ready, Olivia, she swallowed. For what? I tilted my head. The consequences. For the first time that night, she looked afraid, and the worst part? We hadn't even told her the full extent of what we knew yet. For a long moment, nobody moved. Olivia stood there, her back stiff, hands shaking at her sides. She avoided eye contact, staring at the front door, the hallway, anywhere but at us. She knew she was caught, but she wasn't the type to go down quietly. Mark still hadn't spoken. His hands gripped the edge of the kitchen island, so hard his knuckles were turning white. I could see the storm in his eyes. He wasn't just angry, he was humiliated. His own sister had tried to sell our home right from under us. You don't understand, Olivia finally said, her voice strained. Mark let out a slow, shaky breath. Make me understand. The room was still silent. Some of our friends shifted uncomfortably, clearly unsure whether to stay or quietly slip out. Olivia's boyfriend, James, was watching her like he was seeing her for the first time. I was desperate, she mumbled. I had no choice. No choice? I snapped. Your choice was to steal from us. She flinched, but her lips curled into a bitter smile. It's not like you would have been homeless. She muttered. You would have just moved somewhere smaller. Somewhere smaller? I felt my blood boil. Are you out of your mind? Mark finally snapped. Jesus Christ. Olivia, what is wrong with you? She clenched her jaw. I needed money. Okay? I scoffed. So you commit fraud? What were you going to do, Olivia? Wait, until we went on vacation and let some strangers move in. She shook her head, suddenly avoiding my eyes. Something was off. I narrowed my gaze. Wait, that's exactly what you were planning, wasn't it? She swallowed hard. It's complicated. Mark slapped the papers onto the counter. Then make it uncomplicated. A tense moment passed. Olivia's face was pale now, her fingers twitching. Then just like that, she broke. I owed money, she blurted. A lot of money. I blinked. She hesitated. And then, like a scene from a movie, the doorbell rang. Everyone jumped. Mark's head snapped toward the door. Our friends exchanged glances. James took a step away from Olivia, his whole body tense. Nobody moved. The bell rang again. Then knock, knock, knock. Heavy, slow. Olivia let out a shaky breath. It's them. A chill ran down my spine. Mark turned back to her, his face unreadable. Who is them? She pressed her lips together. Olivia, her voice barely a whisper. The people I borrowed from. Silence. Then bang, bang, bang. Someone pounded on the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Mark didn't move. He didn't even blink. But I could see his pulse hammering in his neck. I forced my voice to stay steady. What did you do? Olivia's breath hitched. I took out a loan. Mark let out a harsh laugh. That much? I gathered. Her hands twisted together. From some guys I met through a friend. I felt a cold dread creep over me. Olivia. Who? She finally looked up at me, her eyes glassy. A loan shark. I sucked in a sharp breath. Oh my God, James muttered under his breath. Mark was shaking his head, running a hand down his face like he was trying to physically wipe away the situation. The knocking turned into pounding. Olivia flinched. They were supposed to give me more time, she whispered, but when I told them I didn't have it, they said I needed to pay immediately. So you thought you'd sell our house to cover your debt? I raised my voice now. That was your grand plan? Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't know what else to do. I clenched my teeth so hard it hurt. This wasn't just selfishness. This was stupidity on a level I couldn't comprehend. Another round of pounding. Then a voice. We know you're in there, Olivia. The whole room went still. I turned to Mark. Call the police. But before he could reach for his phone, Olivia lurched forward and grabbed his wrist. No, you can't. Mark yanked his arm away. Are you insane? They're literally trying to break down our door. She shook her head wildly, eyes wide with panic. If you call the cops, it'll make things worse. They'll come after me, after you. Maybe you should have thought about that before you stole from them. Mark snapped. She was shaking now. I can fix this. I let out a sharp, humorless laugh. Fix it, Olivia? How? She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. That's what I thought. Then something even worse happened. The pounding stopped. A heavy silence fell over the room. Mark and I exchanged glances. Then crash. The back patio door shattered. People screamed. Glass flew everywhere. Then slow, heavy footsteps, coming inside. My heart was in my throat. Get upstairs, Mark whispered, his voice deadly serious now. Nobody argued. Our friends bolted down the hallway. James grabbed Olivia's arm, practically dragging her toward the stairs. Mark grabbed a knife from the counter. I didn't even realize I was shaking until I reached for my phone and almost dropped it. I dialed 911 with trembling fingers. A gruff voice came through the line. 911, what's your emergency? My breath was shallow. There are people in my house. They just broke in. I turned toward the hallway. My stomach dropped. Mark was still standing there. The front door open now, and a man I didn't recognize was standing in our living room, smiling. Mark stood frozen in place, gripping the kitchen knife so tightly his knuckles turned white. The man in the living room was tall, broad-shouldered and calm in a way that made my skin crawl. He wasn't just some random thug, he was calculated, controlled. His dark eyes flicked around the room like he was taking stock of the situation. I was still on the phone with 911, forcing my voice to stay steady. Someone broke into our house. We need the police here. Now. The operator responded, but I barely heard her because the man in the living room finally spoke. Olivia, he said, his voice smooth as glass. We need to talk. My stomach twisted. I turned my head just in time to see Olivia slowly creeping back down the stairs. James hissed at her to stop, but she didn't. She was shaking, eyes darting from Mark to the man in our house. Thomas, she whispered. He held up a hand. I don't want excuses. His voice was casual, almost bored, like this was just another business deal. Mark stepped forward, keeping the knife low but ready. You need to leave. Thomas didn't even acknowledge him. His focus was locked on Olivia. Do you have the money? Olivia swallowed hard. I just need a little more time. His jaw ticked. Time? He echoed. Olivia nodded quickly. I'm so close, I swear. I can. Thomas sighed, rubbing his temple. See, that's the problem, Olivia. You were already supposed to have it. I was patient. I gave you extensions. He gestured to the shattered patio door. And yet here we are. I felt sick. This wasn't just a loan. This was a death sentence. Mark stepped fully in front of me now, knife raised. I don't care what kind of arrangement you had. You're in my house. Leave. Thomas sighed again, like Mark was an annoying gnat, buzzing in his ear. Then finally, he turned to look at him. I'd rather not make this messy, he said. But Olivia owes me, and if she can't pay, someone has to. My blood turned to ice. Olivia let out a choked sob. Please, she whispered. Thomas didn't even blink. I had never hated her more than I did in that moment because she had done this. She had invited this danger into our lives, into our home. She hadn't just betrayed us. She had put us all in danger. I took a deep breath. Olivia, I said coldly. Pay him. No, she flinched. I can't. Then you need to figure it out. Desperation filled her eyes. Mark. No, he snapped. No. I am done saving you. Tears streaked her face. Thomas watched us, completely at ease, like this was just another day for him. Then he checked his watch. I don't have all night, he said. Something inside me snapped. I grabbed Olivia's purse from the counter and dumped it out onto the floor. A few crumpled bills, a lipstick, her car keys, and a phone tumbled out. I snatched the phone. What are you? I flipped through her banking app. She tried to grab it, but I shoved her back. Shut up. She had some money. Not enough, but enough to make a payment. I turned to Thomas. How much does she owe? He smirked. 50,000. I almost dropped the phone. I turned on Olivia. 50,000. Are you out of your mind? She was sobbing now. I thought I could. Mark ran both hands through his hair, exhaling sharply. He was unraveling, barely holding back the rage. She can pay you something right now, I said, my voice hard. A down payment, and then she can figure out the rest. Thomas tilted his head, considering, then grinned. All right, he said smoothly. I'll take 10 grand tonight, the rest in a week. Olivia winced. I don't have that much. I held up her phone. Yes, you do. She shook her head frantically. No, that's my savings. Mark let out a dark laugh. Your savings? You were going to steal our house, and you're worried about your savings. She shrank back. I turned to Thomas. Bank transfer. He smiled. Cash up front. I did it. I drained her savings, watched as the transaction went through, and handed her the phone back. Olivia just stood there, looking at the screen like she couldn't believe it. Thomas checked his phone, nodded, then gave Olivia a patronizing pat on the shoulder. See, he said. That wasn't so hard. Then he turned to Mark. Pleasure meeting you, he said. And just like that he walked out. The door shut behind him. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. And then Mark snapped. He grabbed a glass off the counter and hurled it against the wall. It shattered instantly. Olivia yelped. Get out, he growled. She blinked. Wait. I get out, he roared. The room shook with the force of it. For a second, I thought she would argue, but something in Mark's face must have told her there was no coming back from this. Her whole body trembled. James finally stepped forward, shaking his head. I can't believe you. She turned to him, desperate. James, please. His voice was cold. You almost got us killed. She tried to grab his arm, but he pulled away. I'm done. And then he walked out. Olivia turned to me, eyes pleading. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I just stared at her and then turned my back. She let out a strangled sob. Then footsteps. The door opened, and Olivia was gone. The silence was suffocating. Mark finally exhaled, running a shaky hand down his face. His voice was hoarse when he spoke. I'm never speaking to her again. I nodded. Good. He turned to me, his expression unreadable. Are you okay? I let out a slow breath, and for the first time in hours, I let myself feel it. The rage, the exhaustion, the sheer insanity of what had just happened. I shook my head. No, I admitted. But I will be. We stood there, just breathing. And outside, in the darkness, Olivia walked away from our lives for good. I still think about that night sometimes. About how close we came to losing everything. Mark never spoke to Olivia again. Last I heard, she moved across the country, probably running from more debt. She tried to reach out once, a long-winded email full of half apologies and empty excuses. I never responded. Some betrayals are just unforgivable. And this was one of them.